Hey there, and welcome to some more online learning with the Seattle Children's Museum. My name is Daniel, and today we're going to be continuing to talk about the water cycle, and we're going to be learning about some states of matter. Have you ever heard the word matter before? Matter is something that makes up everything. I'm made of matter. You're made of matter. My table is made of matter. And matter comes in three different states. We have liquids. So today, since we're talking about water, I have some water prepared. Matter comes in another state. Solids, like my table. An example of a solid from water's perspective would be ice. When we get water extremely cold, it freezes and becomes hard and turns to ice. And then there's a third state of matter called a gas. There's not a great way for me to show you a gas, so I have some incredibly hot water here, and we're going to see if we can see some steam today. So as I poured the water, you probably saw that a lot of vapor came out of it. We call that steam or water vapor, and it is the gaseous form of water. Now, you've probably heard before about water evaporating from pools and from the ocean and rivers as it gets super hot and turns to steam and floats up into the atmosphere to become clouds. But something I bet you haven't heard about is that gas can not only come out of water, but can come out of ice and frozen things as well. So evaporation is the process from going from a liquid to a gas. But there's another process called sublimation, and that goes from a solid to a gas. And that's an important part of the water cycle. In incredibly cold places where it's freezing all the time, like the tops of mountains especially, we have a process called sublimation happening with our snow. Can you try to practice saying the word sublimation? Sublimation occurs when it's dry in the air. The kind of air that makes your hands they feel a little itchy and dry, or the kind of places where you can really, really see your breath. We have a process called sublimation. When sun hits snow or ice that's on the ground, it doesn't melt into water, it goes straight into a gas. It's not very easy for us at home to practice turning a solid into a gas, as we need a very specific climate and a lot of heat. But what we can do today is show the process of snow being on the ground, evaporating immediately and sublimating into the clouds above, getting cold again, crystallizing, freezing, getting tight into snowflakes, and then falling back down on the ground again. So, for today's activity, you're going to need a tall clear glass, a clear oil of some kind. Today I'm using coconut oil, but you could use baby oil. You could use any kind of oil. You could use a kitchen oil like vegetable oil or olive oil. But I would suggest the clearer the oil you have, the better. The other things you're going to need are some white paint. I'm using acrylic paint. You could use tempera paint. Any color paint will work, but white will be the best to learn about snow. So you're going to want to take your white paint and water it down as best you can, so it almost has the consistency of milk. So I have some paint. It was super thick when I started out, and I added water till it kind of became this flowy consistency like milk. And then the fourth and final thing you're going to need for today's experiment are some fizzing tablets. These come in different forms and have different purposes. The ones I'm using today are Alka-seltzer tablets, and I think they work the best. You can find them in any grocery store. They are white tablets that look kind of like this that fizz in water. So if you're not sure if the tablets you got will work, just try out dropping one of them in a glass of water, and you want to make sure you're seeing bubbles. And that's how you know you got the right kind of tablets. So we're going to start out by taking our white paint mixture. It's going to be our snow, and we're going to add it to our glass. We want to make sure we're pouring it right straight down so that we don't get any on the sides of our glass, because we want to be able to see our project as it's happening. So I'm going to be very careful as I pour mine. Down into my glass, and that is going to be our snow today. So we have a nice layer of snow along the ground. Next, we're going to use our oil. And we want to be careful not to mix up the oil and the snow. The oil is going to be our sky today and the air all around us. So we're going to open our oil up. Mine still has its little cap on. And we're going to very gently and carefully pour it into our mixture, creating our sky. Oh, mine's already starting to mix a little bit, so you want to be as careful as you can to not let it mix. It may mix up some, and that is perfectly okay, as long as you can really see the separation between your snow and your sky. Alright, and mine is already starting to bubble up, but we can see we have our snow here and our sky up here. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to let it settle as best as possible. We're going to let our snow settle down so that we just have our white paint on the bottom and our oil on the top. It might take you a few minutes for that to happen, but mine seems to be pretty good today. And what we're going to do, since we obviously can't make our paint mixture sublimate the same way that snow can, is we're going to add our bubbling tablets. And what they're going to do is they're going to represent the water cycle of the snow being on the ground, the sun hitting it really, really hot in a really dry place, and the snow has no time to even turn back into water. It immediately turns into vapor right back into the sky till it gets heavy, heavy again, and it rains back down. So what you're going to want to do is you want to take 2 of your tablets for a glass this size, or maybe 1 if you're using a smaller glass. You're going to want to break it into smaller pieces. My first one I broke into 3 pieces. My second one, let's see, I also broke into 3 pieces. Let's break it again for 4. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to add these to your mixture. As you're adding them, what are you noticing about your mixture? I can already see mine bubbling up. So our snow is turning right into water vapor and rising up to the top of our glass. It's bubbling up, and then it's falling back down. Have you ever seen snow on the ground before, or been in a blizzard or a snowstorm, or seen a lot of snow wrapping around through the air? We can kind of see that same process. If we look at our sky, we can see all of our little flecks of snow rising to the top of our glass and raining back down as a miniature snowstorm. So remember, the process of snow turning into water vapor and raising up into the air and refreezing again is called sublimation. Sublimation. It's the process of a solid, like our ice from earlier, turning into a gas. This experiment can be repeated over and over again once it settles down and your fizzing tablets stop fizzing. You can just add more tablets and keep the process going and going and going. Thanks for joining me today for an online program with the Seattle Children's Museum. My name has been Daniel. I hope to see you again sometime.